Only these are altered for a constant period. The DNA itself also alters and reformulates according to its environment. This means that once you become firm about what you know to be true, especially about your special abilities that have been dormant, the DNA will reconstruct itself to make what you will believe again to be possible, happen. That is one of the main secrets of creating the superhuman. You have to give it reason to activate itself. This takes consistency and, as we talked about earlier, a firm foundation grounded in truth to what reality is, not what Maya or illusion attempts to make you perceive. The value of this to your future would be of paramount benefit, especially in the world of today where knowledge is power. You can thus remove yourself from the cubes known as the hexagon or the beehive. At one point long ago, a jealous force recognized that certain types of knowledge meant unlimited power to those in possession of it, thus much of the valuable knowledge was removed. All written copies were burned, although at least one copy was placed in the 5-mile library under the Vatican. In replacement, we received lies mixed with truth, which does a horrible job on the mind as we watch the masses plug about clueless, still searching for themselves because religion has fulfilled almost none of its promises. 46 PAGE. Reason 34. The elite depict the world full of worker bees, trying to be something, but they are trapped in hexagonal cubes. This Platonic knowledge introduced the dark square or cube. Pythagoras introduced several methods of trapping organic spirit into matter cubes. We will speak more of this later. We are talking about the level of foreknowledge which gives you the ability to know what will happen before it takes place. This is the time it is most useful as things speed up. You will be able to do this without the aid of books and scholars, thus you will be placed back in the driver's seat of life, exiting the checkered cab. The issue we all individually face is that we wait to see what is going to happen next before we react. This is called reactionary. This leaves you with no preparation and little time or ability to shape the future. I say that one should confront danger and fear before they become closed in by it, instead of allowing it to greet you on your doorstep while your loved ones are inside. Run and face it so you may prevent it or at least prolong it. This may in fact give those you care for the edge they will need to prepare. Again, think of the 7-year-old who will have to live at least another 10 years in this world and what they are to face in those 10 years. What kind of monsters have we left for them to battle? Supplying people with this information will at least allow you to say that you did the best you could, which is also why I write this to you before my departure. When comprising this particular work, what came across my mind, since I had long since discovered the code, was to write a book that even when the reader is finished they could continue to write their own unique personal novel of experience. Due to the fact that we are all entwined in some way or another to what we are experiencing now in the world, you will find amazing sinks in 47 PAGE. Your life that all roll into why you're here. Just because few are using the collective consciousness channel does not mean that it is not always broadcasting. We are always linked to it. In fact, it is more like two lovers who have both fallen asleep on the phone and the lines remain open although there is no one speaking. It is time you begin to unlock all the mysteries and most importantly yourself. Often I began lengthy writings only to leave them incomplete. Pieces of these writing you will find in italics throughout the book. They serve as tidbits of poetry to ponder. The rabbit hole is far deeper than I expected in the beginning, not to mention the fact that after you get deep into the rabbit hole you must climb back out, which they forgot to mention. You do not want to be in any hole, trust me. When you learn the whole system, you will have so much knowledge you will not be incapable of fitting it all in one book. What should be kept in mind is once you start to unlock you will see what used to remain hidden, everywhere in plain view. This also means that everything is not contained here, only the framework that is needed for you to build your own ladder out of the cube of flesh into the sphere of spirit. After that the statement will come true that if the oceans were ink and the trees were pens you could still not write about everything that you will know in fact to be true. With that being said, I have done my best to narrow the book down to what is of highest worth to know. It was originally meant to show how words themselves play one of the most valuable roles in your individual awakening. That later morphed into a detailed story of our true past, present, and future. Even the elite cannot simply say the old language is no good anymore, so from today you will use this new language. That only happened one time in history, in the confusion of Babel. When tracing the story of Babel or the Gates of Ishtar, a far more complex story arises than the brief chapters dedicated to it in the Bible. In the ancient texts, one story holds about Babel. This tower or ziggurat had multiple purposes, and it was also connected to a gate. The two went hand in hand. In most ancient tribes, some type of structure was built to serve as the portal of communication between the presiding god-goddess and the people. You will find a precise geometric layout of some type of construction, whether stone altar, pillar, temple, hollowed tree, or various other portals. You will learn that the geometric structure, especially its number of sides, has everything to do with the type of energies being evoked and from what dimension, plane, expanse, or abyss they hail from. In Reason 35 you will see a rare picture of prehistoric London, now synchronistically called Babylondon. It seems the Atlantean-style Art Deco is preferred. The pyramids have 4 sides because they are massive gates to the 4th and 8th dimension. These dimensions, although very different from the 3rd, are functioning and highly populated unbeknownst to the masses. It is time to understand that multiple worlds exist already functioning, some far worse than the one we are currently in, and some in complete harmony like a utopia, but not by that word. Let's get there. 48 PAGE. Reason 35 Ancient London was more like a rather large Stonehenge Atlantis. Few know of this part of London's history and the ongoing attempt to restore its sacred layout. Notice the model of Atlantis as seen on the right. Later you will see this particular design can be found everywhere you find Atlantis affiliates, especially in government and parliament. What is most amazing is how the obvious goes totally unnoticed. This would mean that we are out of focus and we need to actually zoom in or scale down to look at what is right in front of our face. For example, Christmas is an anagram for Mithras. Once you remove the C, Mithras Day was December 25th. Do you think it would be of value on various levels to at least investigate who this individual is? What I find is those who think an inkling about their souls want to prepare it for afterlife. This would mean knowing as much as you can about what that involves rather than just imagining that being a servant in the afterlife forever would actually be a reward. This is what determines whether or not you end up in a place that will mean total freedom, or the opposite. Servants are always slaves to something. It is already obvious that our current overseers seem to be very detached from the people, so this means you must build yourself to learn of the higher things. The future can only be the future for so long, and then it becomes the present. Another ploy is the fight we get dragged into all the time with these two brother archetypes that appear in many religious texts, whether it's the astrological Jupiter versus Saturn, Sumerian Enlil versus Anu, Egyptian Osiris versus Set, Hebraic Ishmael versus Israel, and my all-time favorite classic mind job Cain versus Abel. This is the roots of duality. After reading hundreds of testaments, Vedras, hieroglyphs, steles, tablets, and spending months in meditation on what had been gathered, a very clear picture began to emerge. When this quest began, it was in earnest desire to find God. My ideas have never been to disapprove the existence of God or other beings, only to create a clear path that I may enter in constant communion with them. There can be no benefit in falsely disapproving something that could emancipate us all. In addition, I not only studied these faiths, I immersed myself in them. There can be nothing more unnerving than someone ousting a religion that they have not even studied, much less participated in. What I did also, since I was very serious about the quest, was I sought to become the highest in each faith I was deluging. 49 PAGE. In. So while I was a Christian, I was a pastor and prophet, while I was a Muslim I was also an imam and Sufi, etc. There can be nothing more positively life-changing than following the truth even when it goes against everything you have been taught. I believe many headlong in their religion have discovered through one book or another the true origin of their proclaimed faith. At that moment and subsequent times after, the person enters a strong duality phase. One side insists that it is the wicked one who is trying to steal their faith. This side tends to use no facts only emotions